Hello guys, thanks for joining me. Today I thought I'd show you my East German bayonet, and it is for the AK-47 series of rifles, what the Germans call the MPiK, which stands for Maschinenpistole Kalashnikov. The early AK-47s were designed to be a replacement for submachine guns, hence they didn't have bayonet lugs, but I'll come to that in a little while. This is the East German version of the Soviet so-called 6x2 bayonet series. The X is really a Cyrillic letter, so it should be 6H2 in English. Also known by some collectors as the M1951 bayonet. As I say, the early AK-47s didn't come out with bayonets. They were introduced just in about 1951 or thereabouts. And they used a bayonet similar to the SVT-40 automatic rifles of World War II, the so-called M1940 bayonets. So anyhow, this is the East German version. These were produced between 1959 and 1965 for the East German Army, for their, as I say, MPiK rifles. And it's slightly different to the Soviet originals. The Warsaw Pact, there were several countries that developed their own bayonets for their AK-47s that were being produced in country. And for example, Bulgaria, East Germany, Poland, I think Romania, all developed these bayonets, as did the Chinese and I believe the Egyptians and North Koreans. Anyhow, this, as I say, is the East German version, which is identified by having these black plastic grips, by having a webbing belt loop and strap, and having these little flanges on the bottom of the scabbard. I think these were designed to prevent damage if you were hitting the scabbard against anything, to prevent damage to the base of the scabbard. The actual unit is about 13 inches in length, and it's quite a nice tactile bayonet. So we'll just take it out of the scabbard. So you can see the shape of the bayonet is the Soviet M1940 bayonet shape for the, as I said, SVT-40 rifle series. It's also the same shape as the ones used on the SKS rifles, so I believe the SKS ones were slightly longer. Anyhow, taking it out of the scabbard, you've got a bayonet which is about 12.5 inches in length, and the blade itself is 8 inches in length. As you can see, it has a fuller groove both sides. The fuller groove gives it a slightly increased strength and also reduces weight of the blade. The top of the blade, there's a spine there. There's a hint of a swage here, and the cutting edge is on the bottom here. It is dull. It comes dull out of the factory, and it would have been sharpened by the soldiers, though they could be used as a bayonet without it being 100% sharp. It was just for puncturing, but as I say, it was quite a unpopular bayonet blade compared to the later survival knife type bayonets that they used. In fact, these were very popular with soldiers in Afghanistan, Soviet soldiers. There's a lot of photographs showing Soviet soldiers in Afghanistan using these bayonets as utility or fighting knives, even though they didn't fit the AKMs or AK-74s. Anyhow, it has a muzzle ring on the front here and has a partial muzzle support in the back here. The blade, as you can see, is silvered. I'm not quite sure exactly what coating is on the blade. Could be kind of a chromed protection coating, but anyhow, it is different. It has been coated. The blade does have a tang, and tang goes into the handle there. And as you can see, it is not treated. It's in the metal. So they've treated the blade to protect it from corrosion and the like. And as you can see, it has these plastic grips. A lot of the other ones, the Soviet ones and the Bulgarian Bulgarian ones, for example, had wooden grips. It's also quite nicely blued. The metal on the bayonet is quite nicely blued, as you can see. It makes a nice, handy fighting knife. So we've got the scabbard here. As I said, these were produced between 1959 and 1965 by the East Germans. I think this is an earlier one here. There's a little stud on the top here. The stud keeps a little plastic liner in place. The early ones, I think, were the smaller ones, and they also had a slightly larger stud, and they also had a square stud later on. Anyhow, you can see the webbing strap here. The webbing strap is pushed through these loops here in the back here. You got these metal loops, and then they're pressure bonded onto the scabbard here. So you got these two loops here, as you can see at the top of the scabbard. Scabbard is blued and it's metal. There's absolutely no markings on this particular bayonet here. Unlike the Soviet ones and the other Eastern European ones, the East Germans did not mark their bayonets. Occasionally you'll find markings on the bottom here, which would be the serial number, which would have been added once the bayonet was issued out, but they came without any markings from the factory. The bayonet fits into a bayonet lug just underneath the front side of the AK-47, and there's a little release here to remove the bayonet just on the front here. So it's quite a nice item, and these are beginning to go up in price a little bit nowadays, and I do like these a lot better than the AKM or AK-74 survival knife bayonets with the wire cutters and the like. This will not fit a AKM or a AK-74. Likewise, the AKM bayonets will not fit the early AK-47s. I do not have a deactivated MPiK or Soviet AK-47, but I do have a Type 56, which is the Chinese copy of the AK-47. And as I said, the very first ones did not have any bayonet lugs on it. There's a little bracket on the front here for the cleaning rod, and what the Soviets said is once they introduced the rifle, they quickly discovered it made more sense to use it as a assault rifle rather than a machine gun, submachine gun. So what they did is they had that little bracket here, as I said, which holds in the cleaning rod, and they just milled away two little teeth on the front here to hold a bayonet. The AKM and AK-74 bayonet lugs on the back here, so they reintroduced that when they modernized the AK-47, and that is the reason that the early bayonets have that support on the back here. It was to support the bayonet. If it was plugged into the front here, it wouldn't have been very secure, and it could have easily have broken off the little teeth here. So anyhow, basically what you do is you take the bayonet and you flick it through like so. It clicks into place quite easily, and as you can see, the back bracket kind of fits into the base of the gas port here, and that keeps it all nice and stable here. Puts less pressure on the front here so it doesn't break off. You got the muzzle ring going over the barrel there. So that's the actual bayonet in place. That's quite nice, actually. I think it looks very nice, nicer than the survival knife bayonets for the AKMs. I do like the line that just kind of follows down here. It just looks very nice. As I say, the release is just on the bottom of the bayonet, and just pull it out and it just comes off quite easily. So nothing to it, just flicks in quite easily. And there you have it. Right, that's my Type 56 deactivated rifle there with the bayonet attached. The AK-47 series of rifles were not the best for bayonet fighting, but still looks quite nice there, and it's nice to have the bayonet to fit the rifle. As I say, it's a Chinese Type 56. They were used in Vietnam during the Vietnam War quite a lot. And in fact, the East Germans got rid of most of their bayonets after the introduction of the AKM by sending them off to various places like Africa and North Vietnam. So it wouldn't be an unusual combination having a Chinese AK-47 clone with the East German bayonet on it. See, my cat is quite interested in it just now. Come on, move it. So anyhow, there it is in place. And it's quite a stylish bayonet, I think. It looks quite nice on the rifle. Anyhow, I'll leave it at that. Hope you enjoyed that quick video on my East German Seitengewehr Modell 47. As always, thanks for watching, and bye for now.